It's because you can't hi. I mean, the thing comes up. I think that's our trademark, though, is being unprepared for the beginning of the stream.
Hey, guys.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome. I don't know what time it is where everyone is.
Yes.
Here we are the Lambda Quadrant. It is crazy town. It rained last night, so we're all lucky to be alive. I know. Look, a surprise guest today. Melissa is here. I think the pointing actually works on our platform.
Yeah.
And other in Zoom, everyone has a different view.
There's Randy. There's Anna. There's this way.
There it is.
I
got lucky because I could just do down.
All right. So what is this panel? This panel is Discovery Too Dark?
That's what this panel is. Yes.
So I'm wearing my disco shirt.
Wait, let me turn some lights off.
I'm just wearing a black shirt and
so we can get a little dark. No,
yeah, my background is dark, right? It looks very much like the bridge during a. Yeah.
My shirt is dark.
See.
There you go.
Nikki has a dead skull on the wall. It's dark, and the Confederation.
And Confederation
right?
doesn't get more dark than the Confederation.
Doesn't get much darker than the
behind
Confederation.
me, there's another skull because I have a thing about skulls. This one has some greenery coming out of it, along with Beverly's head. Just saying. Okay.
Of course. I love the Bev mug.
Wonderful.
I love the Bev.
I think we've already established that we're all big nerds.
Yes.
Who don't know how to start a panel.
Who don't know how to start a panel. I think we're just giving the content that people expect from us, and I think that's fair.
I agree.
But I think this is a brilliant way to start a panel.
See?
I hope everyone's enjoying virtual TrekCon so far.
Yes.
There's been a lot of awesome panels.
I haven't been able to watch all of them, but I've seen them go by, and everything. Oh my God, looks so amazing! I have to go back and catch all the ones that I couldn't see live.
Yes. This morning to watch to proudly go mini drag show was a great way to start the morning.
Shout out to them and to Heather.
Yes.
We love them.
We miss you. We love you, Heather.
Yes.
Should we do a little official housekeeping before we actually get into conversation?
Yes, let's.
Okay. So if you joined us yesterday for our panel, or if you have joined us in the past, you know that as Lambda Quadrant, we like to try to give back to the LGBTQ community. And right now, one of the things that is near and dear to our hearts is the issues that are popping up with legislation, anti-trans legislation, and specifically aiming towards trans kids. And it's insane and atrocious. And currently in Texas, there's a law that was passed, that the governor passed. And to kind of summarize, it basically makes it seem like parents and other organizations, including some restrictions with schools and whatever, can be or could be charged with child abuse, which is ridiculous. And so there are many organizations that we have been looking for to try to promote and help donate to. And one of the ones that we found is called Transgender Education Network for Texas, in Texas. And it's, in fact, if somebody wants to find the banner, there's a banner with the socials at Trans Texas. We want to encourage you, if you are able to donate to this organization. Also encouraging, if you have a local transgender-led organization, to donate to that one as well. We specifically picked Texas because of what's going on politically with the state. And when I donated the other day, the thing that I learned, and Steph and I talked about this at one of our other panels, is that most often what a lot of people don't know is when a donation goes to an LGBTQ organization, only 4% or 4 cents out of $100 goes to transgender-led organizations. And so finding those, finding those organizations specifically led by transgender or for transgender issues is extremely, extremely important. So again, we want to encourage you. Normally we would collect the donations, but it's crazy. And we just wanted to actually encourage everyone. And again, you don't have to specifically pick this one. We are just highlighting this organization, and you can absolutely find one locally for you. So we wanted to say that. We wanted to, promote that. And thank you, everyone, for those of you who are advocates for the transgender community. And we love you. And now, housekeeping done.
Thank you.
And if you're in Texas, maybe try and help change the narrative.
I would like to add.
Yes.
Because it's atrocious what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing those adjectives yesterday, trying to find the best one.
And I would like to add.
Go for it.
I would like to add also that, I know that there's definitely some people who probably think, yes, it's hard for the trans people when they're young, but when they're adults, they'll be okay, right? Please remember that the life expectancy of trans people is 30 to 32 years old. That is how much of an issue and how oppressed the transgender community is in our country. Mm-hmm. It is not easy, and the fact that it starts, by claiming that the parents who actually do support their kids are child abusers.
Right.
There's no way that we can just sit by and let this happen. So this is a very important cause.
Yes.
Now,
which
is
ties
Discovery
directly
too dark?
Well, no, it does tie directly into Discovery, right? Because we have trans characters on Discovery.
It
so
does.
yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Exactly.
pertinent. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's all. No.
But off of that point, there's the discussion. There's many people who criticize Star Trek Discovery as not being Gene Roddenberry's vision.
Right.
Of because he had this idealistic, hopeful view of the future. And there's the concern that showing characters, I won't say that Discovery is not dark. It's dark.
Sure.
We all saw season 1. We
what else is dark? The laws in Texas.
The tardigrade did to people. But it did to people. But at the same time, the fact that there are trans characters who are never being misgendered once they say, hey, here are my pronouns, their pronouns are always respected afterward. That is hugely optimistic and idealistic. And I think that's really another important thing to point out about Discovery.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I would also like to add, and I will give credit to our team member, Callie, who was not able to be with us today due to travel complications and things like that. But one of their things that they actually said is, and they basically said, yes, disco is dark because we are living in dark times, and it's in the best tradition of Star Trek because it's about people who give a shit enough to not shut down with everything falling apart. And so it's one of those things, that's what Star Trek does, right? It reflects or puts a mirror up to what's going on in society currently.
Right.
And so, is it too dark? I think some people could argue maybe, but is it actually important that we go there?
Right.
And I was saying before we went live, I don't see that going dark is a bad thing. It is because if you look at all of these sci-fi shows from just the human perspective, we're putting all of these standards that we expect these alien species to fit into, which is kind of, parallel to what we expect, like American culture expects foreign, Japanese culture to look like, or English culture to look like. And there's going to be conflict in that, and that's honest. So if you gloss over the conflict, then where's the story? And so you have to go dark to learn how to better ourselves, how to be better to each other.
Right. And I would just say that this isn't even the first time that Trek has done this, and I'm glad Mohammed's here. But the third season of Enterprise, the Xindi, was a complete reflection of 9/11 and how things went from hopeful and optimistic to the tragedy. So the Star Trek has a great history of being that mirror, regardless of whether it's happy or sad. It's reflective of our times. So this is just keeping with that great tradition of honest storytelling.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, depending on sort of where I feel like everyone in this audience, at least, if you compare today versus what, like 6 years ago or however long it was, right? It's a little darker right now. Like for me personally, it's a little darker right now. So, and for the representation that's on Discovery, it's a little darker for those people right now. Not to say that things are terrible and we're not going to make it through, but it's definitely on the darker side of, you know, how it used to be just several years ago, right? And if people don't see that, I think that they're not looking. And not paying attention, and probably have blinders on, right? And this is a way of exposing that, and I think that's important.
Well, and the hope is pushing through that darkness and coming through the other side.
And they very much do.
Struggles. Yeah.
Because I think, and this is something that actually Carlos Cisco, one of the writers of Discovery that we are, I'd like to say we're friends with. We've all spoken to him like once. He was great.
He's on my couch right now.
He did a panel for us. So
yes.
Go back and check that one out.
He has said in the past on multiple interviews, and he said it on Callie, who's not with us right now, podcast Queersplaining, when Callie interviewed him, that any future that is human beings in it coming together to solve problems amongst ourselves as well as other species is extremely optimistic. I mean, even in Discovery, where we currently are in Discovery, where they're so far in the future that the Federation had mostly collapsed and everything, even with the Federation collapsing, there was a united Earth. It had not broken down back into countries or anything like that. A fully united Earth.
Right. That's way more optimistic than literally today.
That is I mean, just think about, like, obviously with the news right now with Ukraine, that there's, with a united Earth, that doesn't happen.
Right.
You know, that's incredible.
What Matt said.
Because no, I like this, and I wanted to go talk about that too. Yeah,
I think Anna touched on it, because I mean, look at the season finale of Discovery, how dark everything was, and then hopefully you guys have all seen it. There was a brightness at the end of it.
Yeah, so, there was a bright spot.
Yeah.
Which some people would disagree, but we've seen those people that disagree.
The ending wasn't so dark that it was like all hope is lost.
Correct. Yeah. And I agree with that. I just,
Look, people are going to be salty because two gay people get to go on vacation at the end of it. So you know what? Whatever.
Wait. But wait. Let's get back to Matt's question. The world is a dark place, but doesn't that mean we are in need of less dark sci-fi? And while I understand that, and I do feel like sometimes there is a need to have what is more the escapist type Star Trek or whatever. I think we do have that, right? Like right now with all the new Trek, there's kind of a little bit
Lower Decks.
Something that's what I was going to say. Lower Decks, right?
Prodigy too.
Prodigy,
have a little bit more of a lightness. I mean, Picard, as we know, and again, slight spoiler alert, it gets a little dark. But in the context of, like Steph just said, out of that darkness, that's where you find that story to have the hope, right? You find that story, you have the crew coming together, right? And I will say Disco is consistent with that. I mean, some of the other shows are consistent with that too, but Disco absolutely, like, yes, they show the conflict. They show where people are like, oh, I don't really know if I am willing to, but in the end, they all come together as a crew to have that hopeful, and they go after whatever it is that their bright future is that they have for what they can see, right? In ways to help save humanity. I mean, that's literally feels like the basis of all Star Trek, whether it was considered TNG, light and bright, and even TOS to a certain extent, like with and especially TNG, it's like pristine, right? Like that was the point of the beginning that Gene Roddenberry make, is like, we're gonna show a more pristine, clean, no hunger, whatever. but how boring does that get as us in the present watching, right? Like, it's great, and you need that for hope, but where's the story then, right? You need something. You need a conflict of some type that you as a human being can connect to and resonate with and go, oh, I can now see that hopeful future out of this conflict, right? So,
and TNG is still there. You can still go back and watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Even TNG went dark and TOS went dark. They all went dark.
I was gonna say,
how many times did Counselor Troy get mind raped? Like, come on.
I was gonna say, like, TOS had this balance with episodes like Let This Be Our Last Battlefield, which was about racism, and it ended darkly. Their planet was gone. Spoiler alert, but I mean, how old is that episode?
It's from the 60s. It's been a
while. But then you get episodes like Mirror Mirror, where it was dark. You got to see like the mirror universe for the first time. But then at the very end, they wanted to give you that glimmer of hope where Prime Kirk was telling Mirror Spock, you can change things. I mean, and then we find out in DS9 it didn't work.
And then Deep Space Nine ruined that.
Yeah, and then Deep Space Nine's like, no, it's still dark. But TOS did have that balance of showing, but they were, it was like one episode was dark, but in general, yeah, it was really hopeful. But, and again, it's nice for escapism, but you're gonna get bored, and the real world is always gonna come knocking on your door.
And I think it is a reflection of the current time, though. Like, I mean, I was years old when the other ones were on, but no, like I was a kid, right, when like TNG was on, but like at least for me, I didn't feel like there was so much looming over us. I mean, I guess there was like the Cold War and stuff happening, but it didn't feel like all of these like horrible things were like just being bombarded at us day in and day out, and just like there's a lot, right? And so like I feel like it's a reflection of what people are feeling right now.
We weren't doing gun shooting drills, right?
Yeah, we didn't have in school. Yeah, we didn't have like kids' backpacks that are bulletproof. Like we didn't have that when I was a kid. That was not a thing. So yeah,
I did.
I mean, I had to do a tomato drill. Like that was it. Like I didn't.
Right. We didn't even have that because I was in the South. So yeah.
And the fact that like kids know how at such a young age have to deal with that. Yeah, sorry, that was a little side.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, how like would you even relate to it if everything is like, Pollyanna? What, like, would you be like, well, this isn't realistic at all because of where we are at right now? So,
but it also helps us see from a outside perspective on how we might be able to change the darkness now, what we're currently dealing with. So that way we can step out of, the Ukraine getting slaughtered right now, or the horrible legislations in Texas and the stupid stuff in Florida. It helps us get a different perspective on the hard stuff that's going on in real life, because real life is hard.
I would like to say, though, I don't want it to seem like we're piling on against escapism, because I do think escapism is important. And I also think that when you seek out escapism, that doesn't make you any less of an ally or any less of like someone who's suffering. But I will say, there are a lot of escapist shows, and it's really never been Star Trek's ideology to be escapism. So I don't think that it is Discovery's responsibility to be that. And I always find it interesting that there's a lot of pressure on specifically Discovery, even of the new Star Trek, of it being too dark and that it should be more bright and happy, which I just am kind of like, that's never really been Star Trek's mission to be escapism. In fact, the opposite. It was always kind of meant to be more of a roadmap. Of saying like, hey, look at what we could become, and that's very hopeful and that's very optimistic, but it's not escapism in that sense. I mean, it used allegory to discuss real issues. So while I do think escapism is important, actually a show that I've been watching a lot that I love has been Our Flag Means Death, which doesn't sound happy, which is about pirates, but it's a comedy. it's very light and fun, and I've been enjoying it a lot. And I remember saying to my parents, "Oh, this is exactly what I need some days. This is the escapism that I need."
Right.
And I will say it actually has really good queer representation.
Yeah.
But it's
valid.
Those shows are important too.
Yeah. No, that's extremely important to point that out.
Yeah.
And I don't know why this just came to my head as you were talking about other shows and stuff and just other fandoms. Like, if you're a Star Wars fan, are you having this discussion? Like, is Star Wars too dark? Because Star Wars just seems dark in general, right? Like, you have little points here and there that are like light bright, whatever. I mean, fun Ewoks are fun, but I'm sure the internet is gonna like bash me for that.
It's the only thing that I related to as a child watching Star Wars. I was like, oh, those fuzzy teddy bears are fun.
So I'm actually curious, and this, whoever is anybody in the chat, like, why is this? I mean, I love that we are having this discussion, but why are we having this discussion, right? Because, like Anna just said, Star Trek technically wasn't set up for that, to be the light and bright. I think I just happened to be, production wise, it kind of was a little bit more that way, right?
It's also tough because it was Monster of the Week, and it's hard to set up like a dark sort of looming thing when every week has to be different and its own thing, right? Because you can't have this overarching darkness, right? So you kind of have to have this one little thing that creeps in, and then, okay, we solved it by, like, you kind of had to because of the way that TV worked.
But there was still a little element of that conflict and moral lesson in each and every episode. So it didn't shy away from it. It just it kind of looked a little different because the colors were brighter and the lighting was brighter.
Well, and that was because color was new to television.
Yeah.
So they were like, we want to use as much color as possible. I mean, you know,
so
and
like,
who's even to say that was what Gene would have done if it had, because production was specifically like, hey, use a lot of color so that way people will buy color televisions.
Yeah.
And like that's I mean, that was the movement of television at the era. So who's really to say that if he hadn't had that pressure? I mean, because he was involved in Next Generation, where they were like, you know what's a good color for the set? Beige. I'm just saying, like,
it's clean, it's, you know, pristine, and then your black uniform against the beige will pop, but then everything was like perfectly clean and neat and tidy.
No wrinkles.
Right? And how long did that really last? Actually 1 year, like in season 2 is when we bring on the Borg, but basically 2 years until Michael Piller comes on as a writer and says, we need some conflict. That's how humans are going to connect to the story. We need to change this up a little bit. And then they have some of the like story arcs, right? Kind of back to what you were saying, Melissa, like, and Randy, about how it's like, they were one at a time, and there wasn't like an actual
how do you
story arc until then.
I feel like it was in like season 1, or I feel like it wasn't. Maybe I'm thinking season 3, because I know it didn't have Pulaski, so it wasn't season 2.
Season we don't talk about.
Wasn't there a whole episode? Wasn't there a whole episode of Next Generation where there was like an entire planet full of drug addicts and an entire planet full of drugs?
Season 1.
That was season 1.
Like synergy, something. Okay.
Yeah.
Nerds
and
in the chat, please tell me what episode that is.
And they leave them to go through the symptoms of withdrawal because they can't interfere with the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
And they even say, like, okay, ultimately we know they're going to be fine. Yes, ultimately we know they're going to be fine because they just think they need this medication and it's actually just drug addiction. But they even talk about like, okay, but some people might kill themselves because they think this is horrible, and like, you know, some people won't survive the withdrawal symptoms and stuff like that. And that's just the end of the episode. I remember watching that as a kid and going, Jesus! Like, no. So, it's always interesting when people are like, well, Discovery should be really more positive. And I'm like, I don't know. Star Trek's never really been like a da-da-da-da-da.
But I mean, even the ones that were like that, I'm so bad with episode names, but you will know which one I mean. The crazy one on the on the planet with the happy people and you get murdered if you step on a flower.
Justice.
Like, there you go, Justice. But like, you step on a flower, you get murdered. Like, and everyone was like, well, I guess he's getting murdered. Like, that is so terrifying. Like, he just stepped on a flower.
But they're getting murdered with a smile plastered to their faces.
They made a choice to not have that be Riker, to not have it be Worf. They were like, yeah, we'll kill this child.
We'll kill the kid. And they're like, oh, well, guess he's got to get murdered. Like, that was terrifying.
Right. We didn't tell you our rules, but now you're going to pay for them anyway.
Right. Yeah. So,
aren't you happy?
As Trekkies go, like, do we think that the earlier legacy Trek is more upbeat, whatever, because of how they washed it with production?
Right.
Because as we're talking now, like the stories actually weren't, right? And so. And
I would love to see somebody like recolor TNG episodes and change the music to make it like darker and see like if that affects it.
Now, like production now. I mean, I guess you could argue that with Picard, that is, and hats off to the writers and the showrunners for season 2, because they are more of a TNG fan than the ones that were for season 1. That it does feel a little bit more like Star Trek-y TNG, kind of, sort of, but it's updated to now production. So it looks and feels a little bit darker, but has the stories ever really changed? And so it's like, why is Disco getting the like?
I was crying the last episode of Picard, like the first 5 minutes. I screamed in our group chat about it. That was dark, and we won't
say that spoiler.
I won't say it, but like,
Are
you kidding me? I loved it. I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's creepy, and I love it.
Oh no, not even that bit. That was creepy, and I loved it. I'm talking about someone who didn't make it.
I love how we're talking about it without talking about it.
That's you.
Didn't quite make it.
So we also have to look. I think we have to look.
No, go ahead, Steph. Go ahead, Steph.
Sorry. The thing that we have to look at is when we move from TNG to DS9. DS9 got dark. I mean, let's talk about the Dominion War. DS9 suffered the same thing that Discovery's suffering now.
Right.
It lost a lot of people because it went dark. But again, it was just very reflective.
But then they were breaking the rules of TV by having an overarching story.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But it was also still very hopeful. All of these strangers, these strange races of species of people in this broken environment have learned to come together and work together as a full functioning team, as a full functioning community that relied on each other and trusted each other. And that's hopeful.
Right.
You know,
so that's what we're doing.
DS9 also taught me that even if I'm like a mess of a person, like socially and awkward, if I work hard enough at Starfleet Medical, I too can be flirted with by a lizard spy.
Like, dare to dream. Dare to dream.
Jake and Nog's friendship. I remember, listen, we all saw the Ferengi in Next Generation. And I was like, every time you saw the Ferengi, it was like, oh, these guys again. And then in Deep Space Nine, I remember when I started Deep Space Nine, I remember even thinking to myself when Jake was like, listen, Nog's going to be my friend. I was like, I don't know, Jake.
I don't know. I've seen his people before.
And Sisko's even like, I don't know about this.
I don't know.
And then just in that episode where it's kind of a conflict, you see Jake teaching Nog how to read. Which also I love how pivotal it is to even have a black character teaching someone else how to read. On a historical scale is brilliant. And he's teaching Nog how to read and how he clearly makes helps Nog break the mold of what was expected of him. And then also how Nog teaches him like business sense, because Jake's even like, I'm human, I don't have money. Like,
yeah.
And
self-sealing stem bolts.
when they start living together, Nog is the one who's like, hey, maybe we should kill
Right.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
And there's those hopeful moments in all of Trek, even the Trek that gets yelled at for being dark. I mean, again, as someone, I'm bi and ace, and I see finally canonically queer characters, not an allegory. I see them on the show, and there's not just one token gay person. There's a gay married couple, and then there's Jet Reno, who's also gay, and then we've got Adira, who is non-binary. Yeah. Honestly, I quote that all the time whenever somebody's I'm like, I'm human, I don't have money. And we have Gray, who is a trans man. Like, we have all of this queer representation. And then in the last episode, Hugh was even like, I wanted to be with my family, to not just Stamets, his husband, but also to Adira, who they're just like, you are our child.
Right.
And that, like,
that
just, and then also with Tarka and Oros, you don't know exactly what their relationship was. You know that Oros was Tarka's best friend.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Right. I did get some from that too.
Yeah,
I did get some hints.
How Tarka had his arm around Oros while they were like doing equations. And I actually really liked that they left that out, like, up in the air. Also because Tarka's a Ryzen, and I think Ryzens are pretty fluid.
I think they're all just pan. I assume all Ryzians are just pan.
That is, I will say, is Discovery too dark? Tarka is the angriest Ryzen I've ever met in my life.
like, what are you running away from? Wait, hold on.
But
what's better?
Tortured.
Right.
He's, that's canon that he's been horribly tortured, and to a certain extent, even in his, like, in the flashback with him and Oros, they show, like, he has that Ryzen accommodating and helping, and that's what makes him good at getting Oros to open up to him. Oros starts freaking out, and he's immediately like, here, I'm holding you. That's in his instincts. And the fact that even after being tortured and being in this horrible situation, he still has it. Even with Book, who ultimately, like, he has nothing really, like, tying him to Book. He's always been kind of like, I'm going to use Book.
He said, like, I don't have many friends. You're one of them.
You're one of them. And it's like, this is someone who's very damaged. Who knows if he even grew up on Ryza? Because we don't even know what Ryza looks like at this point in the future.
Look, don't take away Ryza from me, okay? It's still Sexy Planet. You can't take that away.
But we know that he's been horribly tortured, and he doesn't trust people, and he hates himself too, because he feels he betrayed his one, like, friend. And I forget the moment exactly, but Book was like, just even I don't want to give spoilers, but, like, he made a point he still came through of, like, Book, I care about you.
Right.
And makes an accommodating potential sacrifice. We don't know exactly what happened, and I also don't want to spoil, but at the end of it, it is accommodating, which is always what the Ryzens are about.
I want to go real quick back to, you were talking about Tarka and running. What's he running from? I always got the feeling in his grief, he was running to. He was running home.
Oh, I just mean Ryza. I was just kidding. That was just a joke about Ryza being Sexy Planet.
I'm just saying that in his grief, which was the whole point of this.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have seen Tarka in one of the Ryzen outfits.
He felt like he was. He felt like he was running. He felt like he was running to something, and grief makes you do crazy things.
Of course.
He was running to the greatest connection that he had ever experienced in his life.
Right.
Whether that is romantic or not romantic, it was still the most important connection in his life.
And what's interesting is you could look at that as even ending up to be dark, because even something as pure as your best friendship or your best love, however the relationship is, that connection was so deep that it made you do dark things.
Yeah.
And that's very human. Just like what Reno had said. To do something like that, it's very natural to feel like that.
It's oh my gosh, it's very much it's the same story that's been going on forever. It literally just popped into my mind, but it's the same thing as the Wizard of Oz. She's like, if I ever have to go looking for my heart's desire, I shouldn't have to go further than my own backyard. Like he doesn't have to go. Like he had book could be that person. Like it doesn't have to be that one person. It could be like the people that are around you. Like cultivate that versus like blowing up the whole freaking universe just to get back to the one thing.
And in a way, he's got survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Definitely.
But also, I want to say, in the love is love. Like, who knows exactly what Tarka is and Or's relationship is? Comment that we just saw. Like, I love it too, because also at a base level, their relationship was intellectual. They clearly respect their whatever their relationship was. Beyond that, it stemmed from intellectual admiration.
It was math, y'all.
And the power of math, people. And then me being on healthy love. But me being on the asexuality spectrum, I loved that if there was a potential romance between them, there was no sexual element showed.
Right.
They clearly came in respect of, like, even just the fact that Tarka holds Oros. You know how rare it is for someone to comfort someone else physically while holding them in television without it turning into them making out.
Yes. That's so important too.
And yes, you can absolutely, love doesn't have to be romantic, and I'm not saying it was. You have no idea, and that's what's so beautiful about it. That it was just love in that pure sense. We can see that was love in a horrible situation, which in that way, the fact that they even found that connection, that deep relationship, is hopeful and optimistic.
I have to put this up. Glenn, I know you were answering Robert, but you used my favorite word, which is organic. And that's just something I've been saying about the writing. That dark light, it's just very organic. It feels real because whatever messages they're trying to convey about the reality of life, which is both dark and light, are just very natural, and it makes sense, and it's not clubbing you over the head with the world sucks and this is why we're doing this. That's not what they're doing.
Right.
They're making a story that's a mirror, and it's written so well that the message just comes across.
And Saru and Michael's relationship, think about where they were in season 1. They didn't really like each other, they didn't trust each other, and now Saru and Michael are tight. And that felt very organic. It took over the years of and to a certain extent, part of the reason the crew is so tight is because they went through the trauma of Lorca. And that also feels very organic. Like when Pike comes
they
on,
also left everyone behind, so they only have each other.
Shared experiences.
When Pike comes on, he's even like, hey, almost like they're wounded animals, like, hey buddies, I know y'all have trust issues. And there's that element, and it's, it's very real, and I think that's just beautiful. And I do want to pull up, I found a comment literally right before we started this panel. I was just looking at things people say about Discovery, and it was in response to Jet Reno says to Adira, no one's always okay, kid. It takes a hell of a lot of strength to admit when you're not, which I think is a beautiful thing to say. And I think I think that even goes into the darkness with the light. It's a positive thing to admit when you're not okay, even though being not okay is kind of a negative thing.
Right.
And in response to someone posting that moment and saying, oh God, I love this, I saw a comment saying, I really don't like that the new Star Trek, they did put it in quotes, most of the time sounds like a therapy session. It is supposed to be an idealistic and positive vision of the future, not people sorting through their issues in outer space. What is more positive than...
What show are you watching? What does that even mean? Also, have you watched any of the show?
But also, what is more positive than when you're having a hard time, someone comes through for you?
Right.
How is that not a positive vision? And again, like as someone who struggled with mental health issues, that
click on that at the same time. All right,
okay, pull it up.
I got it.
Yes, I love it.
As
someone who deals with mental health issues, I love that there are people dealing with trauma and mental health issues in the future, and that it's not like there's no mental health problems in the future, because that's never happening. Like
I want to know what TV show people are watching that has zero conflict, because that's literally how you write a TV show, is around conflict.
Yes.
So I really want to know what TV show you're watching where it's like having a good Teletubbies. Like I don't know. Like what do you watch? Like I don't know.
I want to pull up. No, this goes to that. This was a comment from earlier. Oh my gosh, this was a comment from earlier, and I do love this comment because. Yes, like that's one of the things that Star Trek does is, as we've been talking, is brings out that hope out of this darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking, it was like, is there any point in Star Trek where it's just like completely, totally dark and there is no hope at all? I mean, unless it's like the Kobayashi Maru test and you have to cheat. Like that's the whole point of Star Trek, as Robert's comment was just up earlier. Like, that is what Star Trek is all about, is sorting through all of that, like finding that hope, finding those spaces where, you can come together, right? You can connect with each other. You can have those relationships. You can, I don't know, struggle through what's going on, because that's real. Like, that's real and that's human. And like you said, Randy, like, what show has everybody been watching? But
also, the Kobayashi Maru is a perfect example. The whole point of the Kobayashi Maru, and then also, what's the other test that like Wesley went through, where they were like, it's supposed to be
the psyche valve for the academy. The psyche valve.
The whole point of the Kobayashi Maru and the psyche valve are go through like the literal worst nightmare. Of everything, and then take something positive out of it as a learning experience.
Right.
Well,
that's an original series.
Kirk said in Wrath of Khan, how you handle death is just as important as how you handle life, which was the answer about the Kobayashi Maru.
And that's literally what's his face? The names just went out of my head. Ryzian guy, like, because he's not dealing with death. He's not dealing with death. Yes.
Right. And also, Book isn't dealing with it well either.
That's also true.
And it's,
it sucks a lot, but they're not dealing with it.
Well, with the help,
embrace and listen and grow. Tarka, even when faced with you could kill billions of people, I don't care. This is what I want. Book started to come around.
Also feels very familiar in this day and age, but that's fine.
Right.
But that also comes from somebody who experienced this trauma too, and she could recognize.
And look at her.
Both of their pain.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, hey, let's not kill people.
Exactly.
So she's doing it right, because she's like, look, I had some bad stuff happen, but I don't want to kill everybody else. Let's just figure it out.
Also, talking about like let's not kill people. Like, people talk about how dark Discovery is in the season finale of Discovery. And again, I don't want to like give away a bunch of spoilers, but there was a moment where I thought at least 5 main characters were going to die, and it looked like they did. And they all were fine.
Right.
There was, it was one of those things where I was like, wait, is this a season finale where I don't think anyone major died?
Right.
Like,
well, I mean, technically, but
like major character. Well, yeah, that's
right.
Major characters like died and like stayed dead, and then there was like one character who I wouldn't even consider a major character of the whole series. One character who might have died, but who knows?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes, exactly. It's like the cookies from New York City that I keep telling Randy he needs to try.
I did. I tried. I had it. No, it was good.
I
love
those.
Try it in New York City.
Did I get one? Anne Marie, did I get one at the bodega? I was so drunk I don't remember. I might have. She'll let me know if I got one. I think I might have. I don't remember.
They do have them here in LA at Cantor's Deli.
And they do,
the
taste the same. I've had a black and white cookie here. Yes, I lived in New York City for 16 years, so I know what these black and white cookies taste like.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. I think, and hey, that's another positive thing. Like, I'm
always mail me one.
I'm a pretentious New Yorker, and whenever someone tries to say they like a bagel, I'm like, "But is it a New York City bagel?" I have not heard one single character say that in Discovery, so that's really positive. That maybe assholes like me are.
Was it a Rizian bagel? I don't think so.
But yeah, the bagels are more difficult to come by.
Yeah,
right.
It's the water.
I will say, like, this is a total tangent, but I was there for like a week for Star Trekky stuff, and I stayed at this little like Airbnb in Queens, and I found a little bagel shop, and it was my little bagel shop every day, and I went every day, and I got my delicious bagel, and I was very excited about it.
They're good. All right, sorry, enough about bagels.
That was the New York City plug there.
I'm just saying that if I were to get my dream job of writing on Star Trek, there would 100% be a character that like would just show up and as like a diplomat, being like, "I've brought you bagels from the famous New York City bodegas."
Yes,
I love that idea.
Or Bear was always like, "It's not real wine if it's replicated." I would definitely have someone being like,
"That was like on
bagel
on Picard this week." He's like, "This cookie is so good! Oh my god!" He's like, "This is real," and the kid was like, "What's happening?"
I loved that part.
I loved that part.
It's so good.
It was
real peanut butter.
Yeah,
the kid was like, "Yeah, I don't."
Peanut butter.
What about the chocolate?
Man, it's Skippy's. That's chemical.
Like, how hard did he hit his head?
Right.
No, but everything had been replicated up to that point. So tasting real peanut butter.
Oh yeah.
That might be mind blowing.
Like, did he hit his head hard?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But and that's the back to like, is Discovery too dark? I don't. It again. I want to say, seeing that like there's like record diversity representation in Star Trek Discovery.
Oh yeah.
Like, we have a black female captain, and she's not the only black woman on the bridge.
Right.
Like,
right.
we had General Ndoye. We had our black president of the United Earth. We had we've got Captain Michael Burnham. We've got Joanne. Oh wow, a whoosh again. Like, we have all these like strong named female black characters who have lines where they're like, sometimes it'll be like no white people in the room, like unless they're in full prosthetics, which is honestly like, I remember the pilot of not this season but the season before. I remember watching it and realizing that the only white actors that I saw on screen for the entire pilot of the last season were dressed as aliens. And I just remember going, "Oh my god, that's honestly incredible," because for so long people of color have been people of color have been relegated to voice acting animals,
right.
like, and or playing aliens or something like that,
Right.
But the fact that they're just like the human, but also, of course, there are white characters, and I'm not saying no white people, like, look at me.
Right.
But there's this record diversity representation of multiple different types of queer representation, multiple types of racial representation, female representation, and all this stuff.
Right.
That is so, like, to me, I watch it and I go, "Oh my god!" Like, I'm a queer Jewish woman. I sit there and go, "Oh wow, oh wow, this is incredible."
I say this with all the love that I can muster, but I honestly hope that straight white cis men feel woefully underrepresented in Star Trek Discovery.
my friend and I, season 1 of Star Trek Discovery, my friend and I were saying, we were like, I think the only cis-het white dude on Star Trek Discovery that hasn't died the moment he's been introduced was Lorca. For like, we had a joke when we were watching, and then there was funny. Like even the episode where Lorca, Choose Your Pain, where he gets kidnapped by the Klingons and we introduce Ash Tyler. There's a scene where Lorca's on a shuttle and there's 2 other white guys, and my friend pointed and was like, the other 2 are gonna die. and Lorca gave them this look where we were like, right now Lorca's looking at them like, all right, well, only one of us is gonna make it out of here alive, and it's gonna be me. Like, and 2 minutes later, after my friend had said that, the Klingons killed those 2 guys and then captured Lorca.
Please let the cis white men be the new red shirts for disco. I'm just saying.
Like, and then
we love you, Ryan. Just saying. We love you, Ryan.
He's great.
We do, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm the token. Like, it's beautiful. Yeah. It was beautiful.
I love that they brought back the kids. That was so fun for the finale. That was so with Tilly. I thought that's not a huge spoiler, but I love that they like brought them back, and she's still like working with them. She's like, "You're doing good. Get out there!" Like, it was super cute. I thought that was adorable.
And also, you know what I liked was the Admiral talks about how he wishes he had been better to his daughter, and you're kind of like, oh, what's the negative of him and his daughter? And it's not even anything. He's just like wishes he'd spent more time with her. Yeah. Which is like, you know, I was almost worried of like, oh no, is the good-looking Admiral that I like, is he gonna be? Is he like a child abuser? Like, what's going on? I mean,
no, just better.
And he's just like, I just wish I got to spend more time with his daughter. And then in the finale, what do we see? Him walking like hand in hand with his daughter.
Randy's going very dark now. He's dead. They're all dead. The whole shuttle bay got blown up.
Dead children. Wesley.
Don't step on the grass.
Oh my gosh.
No, but like going into like, is Discovery too dark? Talk about that Next Gen episode where we find about Deanna's older sister.
Oh God, yes.
Which always messes me up. Which like, because then I went
literally psychologically blocked it.
And it also
for years.
Watching
that is one of Angel's best performances. Is
so good.
Yeah.
I remember
Dark Page season 7.
Yeah. Thank you.
After Attached. That's why I know that.
Attached.
I just remember my dad and I holding hands, crying during that episode when we watched it. And then I just remember my dad going, so that's why he calls Deanna Little One, because she's the little sister.
Right.
And I just remember like being like, Dad, you can't do that to me. You can't say that. You know, and so there's always been this darkness in Star Trek. And so, you know, and I think maybe too, to a certain extent, the reason the pressure is so much on Discovery to be lighter compared to even Picard. I mean, there's definitely people who criticize Picard, but usually when people say they don't like Picard, they say it's too woke rather than it's too dark.
Right.
Which that's a whole other can of worms. But we don't have time to get into.
That was a side note.
We gotta talk later.
Sorry. Forget what I was saying. What was that?
Thanks, Randy. We have 7 minutes left.
Sorry.
But I'm actually blanking. There's always been that darkness in Star Trek, and I think part of the reason Discovery gets so many people saying, "Oh, it's too dark," is because Discovery's season 1 was very, very dark. I don't think it was too dark. And no one here is saying that Discovery isn't dark. Discovery's dark.
Right.
Dark,
of course.
Too dark is the question. But also, it's the first new Trek. So I think after all these years, everyone was putting so much pressure and like
it had to be everything,
desires on Star Trek Discovery, and then people made their like opinions on it like the first 10 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah, which if you missed yesterday's panel with Women at Warp, they were literally talking about this issue of new Trek coming in, and there's is there always going to be this bias of new Trek? So once this group of Trek is done, and then maybe there's another 20 years or whatever it may, hopefully not 20 years, then the next iteration of Trek, is it also going to have that problem? Like, is it going to...
However, can I say, regardless of how like anyone feels about it, like how lucky are we to have so much Trek to choose from now? How lucky are we? Stop complaining. We have we didn't ever think we would get any at all, and look what we have.
Listen, March 17th this past week, I felt so like blessed because I'm an Irish Jew, and it was St. Paddy's Day and Purim. And there were 2 new episodes of Star Trek out. I was like, this day is for me. This is like, I mean, we have so much Trek. We have so much Trek. And maybe not everything's to your taste. But like, if you're saying you like lower decks, run the gambit from lower decks to Discovery, you gotta find something you'll like.
It's gotta be
and that's just right now. That's not including go back and rewatch other Trek. Go back and rewatch the Legacy. Like if you do need that episode that's more of an escapist episode, go back. Oh my gosh, there you go.
Yeah, there it is.
But on the flip side, to play devil's advocate a little bit, is it might be nice to see 1 or 2 episodes that are a little bit lighter, that have a little bit more levity in them.
I don't disagree. Yeah, it would be fun just to have like one of the silly episodes with just the disco people. I want to see them having fun. You're right.
Exactly, because you get other parts of their character in those kind of
when they're just happy. Yeah,
episodes. Well, I mean, you could still have conflict storytelling is about conflict, so you have to have conflict. But having an episode that's a little bit lighter might appease some.
Well, and also, that would be nice.
One of my favorite episodes of Discovery is Magic to make the sanest man go mad, where they do the little Groundhog Day. Even though there is darkness, because Mudd is like, I'm gonna sell you out. It's very funny.
Yeah,
it's a very fun episode, and that's in season 1. I mean, we have Stamets running over to Tilly and be like, "There's the hottest guy over there," and he's suddenly on being in a band. Go, 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 go! Like, and we have like her being like, "Apparently, we danced, and I liked it." And Ash is like, and she's like, "I can't imagine," and he's just like, why? I'm a good dancer. There's like all these very funny moments. Like that episode to me is hilarious. I've rewatched it like 7 times.
That's awesome. No, that's very true. But yeah, both.
I like Glenn Iverson's comment. We need a musical Discovery episode.
I know. I want like the famous Buffy episode, but for Discovery.
Yes! For a musical episode of Star Trek. I have thought about this far more hours.
I believe you, and I love you for it.
Just make it a translator glitch.
Oh, there you go. Everyone has to. The universal translator just translates it into music.
Translating everything into song.
Perfect.
I mean, they
what a great
could
vehicle.
Zora. They could.
Oh,
yeah. Zora's just like, Zora, it's time for everyone to sing.
Yeah.
We know
y'all aren't happy enough.
The short track.
I mean, yes, I was just gonna say the Calypso short track did have the whole dancing music. Dear writers of Discovery, if you're watching,
right?
Or hire me to write. Listen, I'll take that work off your hands. You know,
there you go.
You just give me a little job. It's fine.
Oh my gosh!
All right, we got to wrap up. We're close to the end.
Wrap up. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Who's doing it?
That's it. Good night. No, I'm just kidding.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, all of my people, for being here today. Thank you, our special guest, Melissa,
Yes,
and
thank
my
you,
always
Melissa.
special
Seriously,
guests,
thank you.
Nikki, Steph, and Anna. We appreciate you all and each other, and everyone for watching. And yes, don't forget to go check out our charity. Send them all the love and money that you can possibly spare. It's a big thing right now. Speaking of darkness. So go support them. Thank you for supporting us and Virtual TrekCon. Seventh Rule people and Virtual
We
TrekCon
love
are just
you.
amazing.
Thank you for having us
Thank you,
again.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And go check out
go
the
join me.
next VTC thing.
Yes.
Is the Jane Brooks panel. Hey, what
Yes.
a wonderful read.
Yes.
I walked up to her and quoted, "Don't tell mom the babysitter's dead" at the last convention, and she laughed. She's like, "Did you grow up with that movie?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I figured."
We love
She was
you,
very sweet about it.
Yes.
Thank you, Henry.
Let's end this on love.
And
everyone have a
if
great
you are
day.
in Chicago, come say hi. We will have a Lambda Quadrant table. So please come if you're at the Chicago convention.
Still more to announce later. Have a great
Love you
one.
all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.